Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you YueJin versus Cadilakor in round 2 of the 5th Asia Pacific tournament. Today we're going to be seeing Mont Ormel once again, but we're going to be seeing some very different divisions. On the Allied side, the 1st Infantry under command of YueJin, and on the Axis side, Cadilakor with the 16th Luftwaffe. So, 1st Infantry. It's interesting that YueJin is bringing out once again. It's been a division that he's used already in the tournament, so it seems like he definitely has a strategy that he likes to use. It is an extremely aggressive Phase A division. It of course has M4 DDs, accompanied by assault teams and all of the assault units that are extremely strong. So YueJin apparently likes to sort of use that combination regardless of the fact that you have limited recon, and that is really the downfall of the 1st Armoured and can lead to those M4s being ambushed. But if you're smart about infantry placement, which YueJin definitely is, you can make sure that you have infantry basically run into any location where there would potentially be an ambush. So just by scouring the land with all of your infantry, you're able to avoid the M4s from being killed so easily. On the side of Cadilakor, 16th Infantry, or 16th Luftwaffe, sorry, is a completely different ballgame. It's a very, very slow division, and it relies a lot on sort of a slow momentum, because a lot of their units are tracked and not wheeled. A lot of their units are just generally slow, and they rely tons on infantry. So what we're likely to see is like the human wall tactic of just running forwards infantry supported by like unloaded 88s and stuff like that. Especially like the high vet 88s, you can just drop them off and hope they just snapshot and one shot like the enemy tanks. And against the 1st Infantry, that might actually work pretty well. Since there is a limited amount of tanks for the 1st Infantry, having those 88s snapshot them will definitely leave the 16th Luftwaffe in a position where they can take advantage of limited armour on the side of the 1st Infantry. One thing that is apparent though is the 1st Infantry can invest in quite a lot of artillery moving into the late game, and that can directly counter a lot of what the 16th Luftwaffe is trying to do. So we're going to have to keep an eye out as to what's going on throughout the game. But let's have a look at some of these units. So on the top side, it's going to be a nice amount of infantry there, multiple assault units, and there's an assault team heading towards the mid with the assault leader. There's also a 2-star mortar for the top side, more infantry for the mid, accompanied by an M4 DD, and on the bottom side, it's probably just an assault MG. Over on the side of Cadilakor, he's deploying very light on the bottom. Going to be using this UE 630 MG to hold the front line forwards whilst his recon gets into position. The Kubel here is bringing up an MG. That's going to be followed up by a Flak Panzer Bren. For the mid, it's going to be some flamethrowers, accompanied by some infantry there, and the command infantry. Also a mortar and a UE 630 Sicherungs, which is potentially going to be countered by the M4. It really depends where this M4 is going. It looks like it's pushing for this bottom side. Now YueJin taking advantage of the direct roads to the bottom side here and getting his infantry into position. I believe this will be assault MGs. It would make sense, yeah. And this will probably be an assault MG as well. He's unloaded assault team into this area because it's got the napalm and so on. And he's got an assault team in the middle here, accompanied by both of these assault breaches. Now what just happened was the Me-109G2R1 came in with a 15 HE power bomb early on. But this Sicherungs, because it is tracked, I'm not sure it's going to be able to catch up to this infantry. We'll have to wait and see. At the moment though, Cadilakor definitely scaring this infantry quite a bit. These guys are going to continue to fall back best they can. But if this was a wheeled vehicle, for example, it would have already taken this area. And this is probably the biggest issue with the 16th Luftwaffe in general. So yeah, the assault leader's recovered. That means that these assault breaches are not going to surrender. and therefore the Sitrungs gets killed by the HE grenade. So plans kind of foiled there, simply by the fact that he's playing the 16th Luftwaffe. There are other divisions that obviously can do that kind of thing a lot better, where you bring in, say, the Hurricanes for the 1st Panzerner, and they strafe units, and then you can use a Staghound or something really fast to take advantage of the pinning effect that those aircraft have. And that's what Cadilakor was going for. It's just a shame that in this case it didn't work out, since these assault breachers, they have 20 km/h speed compared to, you know, Cadilakor's infantry, which has 18 km/h speed. And that little bit extra speed there helps them run a mile when they start to fall back. Now YueJin has managed to find himself the 54% territory lead. And I think that's mainly due to the bottom side here, where he's got these couple little salients caused by the assault MGs and the lack of forces on the side of Cadilakor. Assault team is going to move up. That's going to engage this MG34. MG34 is in hard cover. It does have plenty of HE, so it's going to pin down the assault team. The Flak Panzer Bren also getting involved. But this M4DD is going to get line of sight onto the Flak Panzer Bren. Cadilakor is going to be forced to fall back, so is the MG34. And the mortar is getting involved in this forest. It's going to be forcing the Luftwaffe Pioneer out into the open. M4DD has arrived now. And it just seems like everything that Cadilakor does from here on out will be hard countered by these M4DDs. Yep, M4DD takes out that Flak Panzer Bren. Like, the only thing that he has is maybe like an AT gun or these AT8s. But this AT8 has pretty much got a one-shot this M4DD, or it will find itself pinned down by a direct hit. Because that M4 is just about within 1,000 meter range of this area. I guess if you sort of unload just as you come through the tree line, Cadilakor might be able to get the 1,200 meter shot. ME-109 finding the 81mm mortar, going to be dropping the bomb on that. P-38 Lightning has been brought in response. These P-38 Lightnings are very cheap early on. Cadilakor has got to respect this, honestly. Otherwise he could find his ME-109 G2R1 being shot down. ME-109 brought the P-38 Lightning over to the bottom side so that he can use the Flak 36. But the Flak 36, is it going to do the job? We'll have to wait and see. The P-38 Lightnings, they are very, I guess, fragile, so that an 88 can shoot them down. In this case, it looks like the ME-109 G2R1 will get the kill, unless the P-38 is just a little bit too fast. It is going to get out alive. Wow, nice job there. M2A1 howitzer has been brought in response to the 88. And like I mentioned, artillery very strong on the side of the 1st Infantry. And that is a direct counter, aside from the M4DD, to these 88s. So Pack 38 has been revealed. M4DD going to be looking to block the line of sight there with these buildings. But what will happen, most likely, is the M4DD can just face front armor to the Pack 38, and then we'll just see the Pack 38 go down. ME-109 G2R1 does come in with the bomb towards the M2A1 howitzer, but does not find the kill. 81mm mortar trying to clean up the Pack 38. So far, still a +1 for YueJin. Counting up that victory, slowly but surely. M4DD looking for the kill on the Flak Panzer. The second Flak Panzer on the top side actually was taken out. Actually, no, it wasn't. It's behind here. My bad. M4DD, though, going to be slowly moving forwards, basically accompanying these assault MGs as they move forwards. And like I mentioned before, YueJin, all he's got to do is make sure that an infantry squad checks every building, every little nook and cranny of this map, and then he knows that the M4DDs are going to be safe to move up. That's basically what he's doing, again, regardless of the fact that he doesn't have any recon. Forced to play around that. An M16 MGMC is being purchased. That's going to be coming in with the Bofors there. That can be used to win the air engagements against the ME-109s. He was pretty lucky to get his P-38 out alive in my opinion. But we'll probably be looking to use that in the future to win those air engagements. M4DD looking for the kill onto the Flak Panzer Bren. Cadilakor just microing around that building to stop that kill from coming through, whilst also mowing down the assault team. Pak-38 is going to take a shot at the M4DD. YueJin's definitely playing with fire, that's for sure. Assault breach is now coming under fire as well. YueJin's going to want to smoke them off. Although it looks like he's going for this engagement here. Flak Panzer Bren does get killed off. Assault breach is just going to be asked to fall back. Okay, so the Flak Panzer Bren's gone. Now YueJin's going to be looking to kill the Pak-38. On the side of Cadilakor, he's going to be looking for a bombing strike onto the assault team. We'll probably find the kill on the assault team. Yep. But whether or not that was effective, I'm not entirely sure. ME-109 G2R1 can be baited into this engagement by the P-38. That's an MGMC and a Bofors. Oh, fantastic job here by YueJin. Uses the AA he's just brought in to find himself a kill onto the G2R1. Wow, huge investment in bombers here from Cadilakor early on. Another ME-109 going to find itself falling back. YueJin's not going to greed for it though. He can't afford to, otherwise his lightning will be shot down. Second lightning comes in. Cadilakor's just going to get his ME-109 out of there, as he does not want to fight 2v1 over enemy AA. So, YueJin has pretty much stopped all of these bombing strikes in their tracks for the time being. There is a small push coming through on this bottom side. UE-630MG and the Flak Panzer Bren pushing onto the Assault MG. This M4DD is going to be looking to creep down and find its way into line of sight of these vehicles so that he can then allow his Assault MGs to win the engagement. M2A1 howitzer still looking for the shots onto the 88. It's going to be relatively inaccurate due to the fact that it's out of direct line of sight. Wow, big engagements here in the forest. I think the assault breaches went up against Luftwaffe pioneers. Both sides came out with arms and legs missing, that's for sure. HE grenades thrown all over the place. M4DD has found itself into position. UE-630 goes down. Flak Panzer Bren just going to be fast moving through the tree line. It's like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Actually, it's quite a smart position for Cadilakor to put the Flak Panzer Bren into, because it can still fire at the Assault MG whilst also not being in line of sight of the M4DD. HS129B1 purchased, just gone into phase B. So that M4DD is now down. Assault MG has been surrounded. And really good job actually. A huge reliance on Air Force though, which is something that I don't think is sustainable for Cadilakor moving into the late game, because there's no way that YueJin isn't going to invest in his own AA. And if Cadilakor has all these points invested in his Air Force, there's a huge potential for YueJin to just push all the way through Cadilakor's front line. 2 6-pounders have been brought in down here. One does finish off the Flak Panzer Bren. Another ME-109 G2R1 strike. That's going for the assault leader. It's going to come under a reasonable amount of fire. P-38 Lightning. Will it be able to catch up? Not entirely sure it will. Okay, it's managed to. It's got its guns on target. Flak Panzer Bren is not going to stop that. ME-109 goes down. Nice job there by YueJin. That is 2 ME-109s now out of the picture. There is a third one, plus a HS129. Now we're going to see the P-38s start to come in and round strafe, I believe. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, M4DD is still alive on the top side, so YueJin can play around that. On the bottom side, it's not going to be as easy. because it's just going to be a straight up infantry engagement, and the availability of infantry on the 16th Luftwaffe is pretty damn high. I think this M2A1 howitzer has almost direct line of sight onto the 88 this time around. Yeah, so we can get a corrected shot. That might cause the 88 to die this time around. Okay, 88. Oh, I thought that shot was going to kill it. Rifles have come up. They will likely finish it off. Rifles coming into the bottom side. Oh, they're instant. Falling back. I think a 50-meter like grenade that was supposed to kill the vehicle landed as the vehicle disappeared and stunned the rifles instantly. That is crazy. Assault MG here though. That's two 30 cals at close range. It's done a ton of damage to the Luftwaffe Jäger there. 88 has been killed. Rifles taking the ground. 61% shift there as that 88 dies. And these Luftwaffe Jäger all of a sudden looking very unhealthy. Regardless of that assault MG going down, the Luftwaffe Jäger do die. And now these rifles will likely pick off the second squad there. P-38 Lightning also going to get on the back of this ME-109 G2R1, and that's severely hit already by AA. So, really, really good job by YueJin to just control the air here, taking down all three of the ME-109s so far. So, +2, counting up the score, very nicely indeed. Mortar fire still coming in here for YueJin. Looks like he's reloaded that with the duck and then sent it back to the M2A1 howitzer, which is really smart use of supply there. Basically going to pin the Luftwaffe Pioneer so they can't use their grenades, and then engage them with rifles. So taking away the advantage that the Luftwaffe Pioneer have. Very, very good idea. And in this case it's working out a treat, especially with the Luftwaffe Führer being left out in front there and also being allowed to be surrendered. That is a huge mistake from Cadilakor, because now these Luftwaffe Pioneer can be pushed on very aggressively by YueJin. These rifles are going to stop the advance of the two Luftwaffe Jäger on the bottom side. YueJin is now investing in more AA and also more artillery. So we got two artillery pieces. Two large artillery pieces with the 15 HE as well, and plenty of AA to cover those from airstrikes. And there isn't really too much that the 15th or 16th Luftwaffe can do about that. They can only really bring in, I guess maybe these FK288s are actually a really good choice, because they are sort of pseudo AT guns, which also have the ability to fire long range with HE shells. In this case, the 288 being used to try and take out the 81mm mortar, but is being relatively inaccurate at the moment. But yeah, these 288s, maybe they should have been seen from the start. Might have been a good way to deal with the M4DDs, whilst also putting a lot of pressure onto the rifles. Now yes, the FK288 doesn't have the same AP, for example, as a PaK-38, but it can definitely still do the job at close range. Now, as I mentioned in the mid, with the Pioneers being neutralized by the mortar, and also having used all of their HE grenades, rifles are just running them down. What we can see on the top side here is, I think the 88 found the shot onto the M4DD there. HS129 was not needed in the end, and the P-38 Lightning is going to be forced to fall back. The 2-star Flak 88 doing a fantastic job. Almost like killed the P-38 in that engagement. But yeah, as we can see, even with 150 points a minute at this point, 16th Luftwaffe is struggling to hold back the 1st Infantry. Now, the only saving grace really is this income, because 100 points from the 1st Infantry is not a lot compared to 150 points of your opponents. And I think what Cadilakor maybe needs to do is invest in just a lot of infantry and just try and push into these assault MGs, accompanied by like Sicherungs and stuff like that, because he does have them on the division, and therefore they could be used effectively as fire support to pin down infantry at range. And one thing that is great about, well, about facing the 1st Infantry is once you get through or grind through their initial Phase A infantry, you leave yourself in a pretty good place in Phase B and C, because their infantry is just not as elite anymore and not as effective. It's just standard rifle squads. And those are relatively easy to take care of. Either way, Flak Panzerbrenn and Stug being used alongside these Luftwaffe Fusilier and the Luftwaffe Jäger on the top side to push forwards. That is a nice push. I like that a lot. It just needs to be accompanied by, again, more infantry in general. And it looks like Cadilakor just trying to stop the bleeding in the mid as these rifles advance. Now this nag drilling, that is going to absolutely rip to shreds rifle squads. I'm surprised it's not doing more damage, since it does have 18 HE. But the fallback modifier going to mean that they take less damage as they run away. Stug 3 also coming into the bottom side. Trouble is with this Stug 3 is it has the potential to be hard countered by these M1 guns. YueJin having brought those in earlier. Cadilakor should know about them, or at least one of them, since it killed his Flak Panzerbrenn here. Keeping track of stuff like that as you're playing is pretty important, because if you don't, there's a big potential that he could be punished. But again, more infantry is needed. Yes, you got the Stur 42, yes, you got the Stug 3, but there needs to be like 5 squads of Luftwaffe Jäger right now, just spread out in front, running forwards, almost like we saw in the last game with APT, just absolutely spamming the crap out of rifles and having them run ahead of all of his pushes. But with the addition of another artillery piece here, M7 HMC, accompanying the 2 M2A1 howitzers, you can see that the Flak 36 and also the FK288s are coming under a lot of pressure. Both as there is going to help force back the Flak Panzerbrenn. M5 gun also getting involved, does fire a shot at both the Stug 3 and the Flak Panzer. Oh, nice hit there by the Focke-Wulf 190 A8 BR21. Going to take down the M1 gun to 1 health. Both as is going to be finished off here on the top side. So this push has really come to fruition, actually. As long as he can continue to support infantry on this top side, I think there's a lot of ground to be made, regardless of the fact there's an M5 gun here. That will need to be RT'd though, or hit by, again, another Focke-Wulf, because this is going to get pretty scary. Just waiting for that M5 gun to breach the tree line. There we go. You can see that line of sight change all of a sudden. Oh, it's going to one-shot, side-shot the Stug 3 as it drives on past, and the Flak Panzerbrenn also left in line of sight. Does not hit the second shot, but stops that push in its tracks. And this is why you need infantry ahead of yourself. So there goes Cadilakor's chances on the top side. Now I'm looking for a chance on the bottom side. Stur 42, Stug 3. Really nice combination, but once again, just needs the cannon fodder that can reveal targets and also just help you with recon, I guess. But in this case, look how close his M1 guns managed to get. There's no recon on the bottom side accompanying these tanks. They are blindly driving forwards towards potentially what is a known AT gun, since again, this Panzer got killed by an AT gun. Maybe Cadilakor didn't see it, who knows? But both of them showing side armor. Oh dear. M1 gun actually changes target. Going to be going for the shot onto the Stur 42. This is smart because the Stur 42 has more HE and will pin down the M1 gun quicker. Whereas he can take one shot from the Stug 3 and it won't matter so much. That shot bounce off the front arm of the Stug. That's going to be a pinned M1 gun. But it should be able to get out of there if it starts falling back now. Great job though taking out the Stur 42. Very smart. Focusing that first. Here finally comes the infantry. But it's a little bit too late, because now there's no Stür 42 to pin down the assault MGs as he tries to move forwards, and now these 30 cals are going to absolutely rip these infantry to shreds. Same with this Bofors, actually. We are going to see the Focke-Wulf 190 come in with the rocket strikes. They're going to hit these assault MGs just to relieve the pressure onto the Luftwaffe Jäger. But these are just filling the roles that the Stür 42 should have. And as the 6-pounder recovered on the bottom side, actually, it took out the Stug 3, and a Focke-Wulf 190 also going down to the P-38 Lightnings. That is another huge swing in favour of YueJin. Now, we have seen that the 50-50 has pretty much gone back to normal. Both players pushing evenly down the map at the moment. But YueJin's still sitting there with the 1,579 points in his favour. And with the 88 being taken out on the top side, these P-38s thought it would be okay to kill this HS-129, but the Nag's drilling taking care of those whilst the HS-129 pops the Sherman that was brought in. The Luftwaffe Jäger have been forced back still. Assault MG is still relatively healthy. 5 men in one squad, 3 men in the other. They will be able to hold back Luftwaffe Jäger easy. And the Bofors does get taken out by the FK-288. I'm not really a fan of how Cadilakor is using these. The fantastic thing about FKs is they are able to direct fire units with their HE at the 1,200 meter range, and also engage armored targets at the 1,200 meter range, direct fire, which is really, really useful. They can then also, if they need to, fire at range. And I think that's what the FK-18s, or FK-288, sorry, should be used for. And currently, yeah, it's a shame they're not sort of just sitting in this tree line, firing direct shells into all of these units, similar to sort of like a IG-18. It's kind of like having a 1,200 meter range IG-18 with an extra artillery capability. Those things are really, really strong if they're used well. In this case, it is pretty difficult to use them effectively, because I guess if you did put them in line of sight, they would just get artied. So there is that. But that's just a thing with this division matchup anyway. There's a very infantry heavy style on both, but the 16th Luftwaffe is way more prone to artillery fire than the 1st Infantry is, because the 1st Infantry has a lot of sort of decent armoured units that they can use to support. Now, one thing that does happen, P-38 gets shot down by the drilling. These drillings can be so ridiculously strong. Focke-Wulf 190A8 does get forced back, but survives to fight another day. So a new M4A1 replacement has arrived now. Accompanied by the M5 gun, they're both putting down HE shells onto these infantry. Rifles are still contesting in the mid. The Luftwaffe Pioneers have found themselves pinned down, but one grenade left on this one. Might just get killed off before he throws it though. Yep. There's 2 left on each of these squads, but with them being pinned down and out of range of the Luftwaffe Führer actually, there could be potential for surrenders. Now Pack 38 shows itself down here, or gets revealed by recon. That's now going to get artied to death. You can see while all of this is going on, YueJin is just micromanaging his supply in the back line. Really nice to see that going on. Recon on the top side has come in. It's going to be accompanying YueJin as he tries to move forwards with the M4A1s. In the forest, the Pioneers did manage to get the better of the rifles, so that's really good for Cadilakor. But losing that Pioneer squad, maybe not so much. Now a 58% territory lead for YueJin. And the reason that that swung so much is, even though it looks, relatively even, you can see that this is way more than this. And that's because the infantry line of Cadilakor has absolutely crumbled under the fire support of YueJin. Like, regardless of the fact that the Focke-Wulfs came in and rocketed these assault MGs, like, it didn't matter in the end because the assault MGs didn't die. There was no lethality there. the Stug 42 or the Stug 42 and the Stug 3, those were what were supposed to assist that push. But now that land has just completely gone in YueJin's favor because those two support units died and the infantry was left stranded. So Cadilakor's push has absolutely crumbled, and the M3 scouts are now pushing very aggressively against what is a pretty weak defense out of Cadilakor right now. He's forced to bring in these Stug 3s, but honestly all he needs is more infantry, and I just don't know if he has it anymore. It seems like he's just maybe not run out, but just doesn't have the economy to support as much infantry as he needs against YueJin, who now has 130 points versus Cadilakor's 100 points per minute. So at this point, YueJin can just continue to reinforce himself with more units that help him push against the 16th Luftwaffe, whilst Cadilakor is limited quite severely by the amount of income that he has. Now Pak 38 is going to get the jump onto the M4A1. With the shooter knocked out, there's a potential for this M4A1 to die. YueJin going to try and reverse it, but it's not going to happen. Pak 38 does the job. Still a +2 in favour of YueJin. Rifles there, going to be killing off the Luftwaffe Jaeger. We do see the Focke-Wulf 190A8 coming with the rockets. But I don't like seeing these Focke-Wulf 190s and bombers just go for infantry targets. Not unless it's like multiple infantry and it leads to multiple surrenders. I'd much rather see the Focke-Wulfs kill things like the M1 guns and like just artillery, like keeping an eye on where these are firing from, bring them right down the bottom side of the map or something and then flying up into the like artillery. I think that might have been a better use of those aircraft. But after 28 minutes and 56 seconds, I can announce that YueJin is the victor. Unfortunately, YueJin disconnected from the game due to his connection failing. But Cadilakor, honourable opponent, gives YueJin the victory anyway, since he was 2,087 points ahead of him. And fantastic job by YueJin throughout this game to make use of the 1st Infantry, especially in the early game, to put the pressure onto the 16th Luftwaffe. Brought in all of the right units, used the M4DDs with the strong infantry, and also invested in the M2A1 howitzer, which allowed him to counter the 88s that would otherwise kill his M4s. So yeah, fantastic job, really knew what he was doing. 2,460 kills to the 1,285 losses there for YueJin. In terms of kills, M4DDs, they cleaned up these Flak Panzer brands, and that's pretty much all they needed to do. And then it allowed the sort of infantry to do the rest. So the assault teams coming in here and assault breachers sort of having their engagements in the closer range forest areas. But these kills on the P-38 Lightnings, guys, the ME-109 G2R1s being shot down by the P-38s is just huge. Like, that's 3 ME-109s that Cadilakor bought in Phase A being shot down. Imagine how light that left him on the ground, regardless of the fact that he had 100 points per minute. That is a huge amount of points. Like, each one of those ME-109s, I think is, I want to say like 150 points. So that's like 450 of your 1,000 Phase A, actually 1,500 Phase A points spent on aircraft, just taken out. Like a third of your units just gone by the P-38s there. He got absolutely baited by the MGMC Bofors combination. And yeah, really good job by YueJin to make that happen. In the mid, rifles killing off like 2 units of pioneers each is not something you want to see. Not quite sure what happened there. I feel like YueJin was microing away from the grenades, but also he was keeping those pioneers constantly pinned down throughout the entirety of the game. That 81mm mortar was there from like start to finish, and it was constantly resupplied by the Duck, which allowed it to consistently pin down enemy infantry. Great job by the M1 gun on the bottom side. Finding the kill onto the Stug 42 and Stug 3 really shut down that push. And same deal on the top side. M5 gun came in, killed the Stug 3, killed the Flak Panzer. And killing those units was absolutely vital YueJin knew what he needed to target. He even targeted the Stug 42 first instead of the Stug 3, even though he had the shot ready. Just because he knew that killing that first would give him an easier chance of killing the Stug 3 afterwards, rather than doing it the other way around. Because if he targeted the Stug 3 first, the Stug 42, with its high HE, would have instantly pinned down the M1 gun with the first shot, and potentially got a second shot off that would have led to the kill. Either way, Cadilakor, he put up a great fight. ME109 G2R1 sort of tactics at the start were actually pretty interesting. I wasn't quite sure how Cadilakor was planning to get aggressive in this game. It always felt like, from just the matchup in general, he would always be on the back foot, and we even saw it throughout the game. So trying to get imaginative with these ME109 G2R1s, finding the bombing strikes, trying to go for the surrender there with the Sicherungs was interesting, but the fact that the Sicherungs is tracked, it didn't have enough time to catch up to the infantry early on. And if it had, well, this game could have been a very different story, since Cadilakor could have reinforced that salient with lots of infantry, which would have been extremely hard to dislodge, because it seemed like there was a lot of Luftwaffe pioneers about. HS129s actually did a great job. This one killing off the M4DD and the M4A1. Fantastic stuff. 88 did manage to clean up one of the M4DDs, but after that, not many more kills to count. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So congratulations to YueJin. He's going to move on to round 3. Cadilakor taking the loss, going down to the lower bracket. But yeah, fantastic game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.